Cold War ended in a non-usual way, because it was a big conflict, very deep-rooted conflict between two systems, which ended up without a direct collision. And one side, the Western side, won the Cold War without any shoot fired, which created a feeling that the Western system is the absolutely best one, the most efficient, the most significant, and the most moral one, the right one, which in its turn produced a new atmosphere in international politics, which was about improving the whole world and particular countries. And in a way, it was very much idealistic. From other point of view, it was very much arrogant, because it stated that the special part of international community has right to dictate, actually, or at least to strongly recommend to the rest how to behave and what to do. And that had a lot of practical implications in international relations. First of all, the democracy promotion and human rights perspective were added to the arsenal of big powers. First of all, United States and the European Union. And that was, to me, pretty detrimental for the international humanitarian law, because this law, which used to be, so to say, a mean to solve conflicts and to minimize damage done during wars and skirmishes, that suddenly was turned into a political instrument by particular countries. And another bad thing which happened was that the human rights agenda was basically unified with the humanitarian law, which are different things, actually. Second consequences, which was pretty problematic for ICRC, for example, from my point of view, is that many other structures, organizations, units emerged on this field. So ICRC had the privilege to be the oldest one, the most reputed one, and in a way, with certain limitations, but enjoyed the reputation of being impartial and unbiased, more or less. Of course, everybody could doubt it, could challenge in particular cases, but in general, this reputation was there. Other new organizations doing human rights protection and claiming the humanitarian needs, they had completely different background, from some philanthropic organizations to structures which had clear connection to particular states. But in the atmosphere of this new international politics, where human rights and humanitarian rhetorics became an integral part, for many states, especially states which had no tradition of openness, to put it mildly, all field of humanitarian discussion became extremely dangerous. They started to perceive it as something which was there to promote changes in those states up to regime change. And I think the worst which happened after the Cold War in 1990s and 2000, that was a confusion between protection of human rights and regime change. I think the first task would be to try to depoliticize any humanitarian actions as much as possible, because the politicization of this area was pretty fatal for organizations really caring about humanitarian law protection. In this regard, ICRC has an advantage, because all this history since period when, well before the Cold War and the whole cataclysm of 20th century. Secondly, I think it's pretty difficult now to refer to ideals. The world is such that, unfortunately, the rhetorics of idealistic activities and operations has been pretty inflated. And many countries and individuals contributed to that. So I think strangely enough, it might sound pretty cynical, but ICRC should find ways how to explain to governments why it's profitable to them to stick to international humanitarian law, why this will bring some advantages to them, some profits, and it's not exactly what guardians of this field envisaged maybe a couple of decades ago, but that's new reality.